Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to everybody in the Glover U family. I'm so excited to talk to you guys today. And today I'm coming to you and I want to talk a little bit about some of the tactics with winning with buyers. And obviously we started buyer mastery and, a lot of focus going on as we head into the spring market, specifically on working with buyers and how we're winning with buyers. One of the things too that I'm hearing, not just from coaching clients, but from agents all over, is what a challenge it can be today in this environment to work with buyers, because we know it's kind of tougher when this environment and seeing this low inventory market, we've seen where it's a little bit tougher to get in there and compete with those bids. So I'm coming to you guys today with the buyer shark, Nickey Calford. I wanted to bring you in today specifically because you are somebody who, in this really hard environment, I want to talk to you too about your marketplace a little bit. In a tough marketplace, you are winning so often in these situations. And I want to talk to our viewers and get some of that strategy out there and talk a little bit about this. First off, Nickey, before we get started, tell everybody, where are you from? And tell us a little bit about why your market is one of the most competitive out there for buyers.
Okay, so I am from London, Ontario, Canada. So our inventory, I think we're used to having about 3,000 homes on the market. We have about 1,800 agents in our board. And right now we have about 2,100 agents and we have about 250 listings.
Wow.
So our inventory is unbelievably scarce, and that's all price points. We're actually seeing in the month of January, I haven't seen the stats for February come out just yet, but in the month of January, our average sale price went up $89,000 in 1 month.
Wow, guys, think about that, $89,000 in 1 month. So I think that's fair that we can call that hyper appreciation, right? So when we're in that type of thing, let's talk a little bit, because I'm sure there's no shortage of people that do want to buy out there, right?
Tons. I was just up against 22 offers yesterday, and the day before there were 36 offers we were against.
All right, and so since you're winning in these situations at such a high level, I would say that probably one of the things that you're dealing with is qualification, right? Who qualifies, Nickey, when we look at your type of buyer up there in Ontario, who qualifies to work with you? How are you making that determination when you have 5 or 10 or 15 people that want to see homes or put in offers?
So really it comes down to their coachability. If they can't be coached into learning very quickly what's happening in the market and they want to play their way, that's cool. Go play that your way and lose with someone else. But when they're coachable, we look at the market. And right now I used to, if you were under $100,000 in pre-approval, I couldn't help you. Then it was 200. It has very quickly gone to basically 600,000 in less than a year and a half. So I was at 300 last year and I'm now at 600,000. If you aren't pre-approved there and you aren't ready to jump when I say jump, you're no longer a client for me.
So what I'm hearing is that really we're only looking for the people who are ultimately the most motivated in these situations, people that are in need of a house versus kind of kicking around the idea of maybe I want to move.
Yeah. If you're not ready and willing to jump, then we just don't have time for that in this market. There's other agents that'll have nothing else to do that they can go do that with.
That makes sense. So on my team, one of the things that we focus on just along this exact level, we really focus on the qualification script, right? And so when you have calls coming in, or when you're getting referrals, or when these ad calls or when these internet leads are coming into you, what does your process look like when you're qualifying? Because one of the things obviously we talked about is qualifying for that motivation. And I think some of the agents out there struggle today on knowing who's at a high motivation and who's kind of at a normal motivation. Just to touch on for a second, I don't know if you got a chance to see this. Kate Simon had put out a post in the Facebook group. For those of you guys who are not involved in the Glover U Inner Circle group, definitely go ahead, join that. A ton of great content. Kate had put that in there. And one of the things I talked about is so many agents that think they might have 7 or 8 buyers right now really only have 4 buyers, because half of their buyers aren't going to really be able to compete. How do you make sure that your buyers are coachable, going to listen to you, and ready to compete in this kind of market?
So it really starts off a lot of times if it's a sign call or an internet lead or something else, I don't mind going and meeting someone at a property, knowing that
Okay.
I'm safe, etc. So I'll go and meet without a buyer rep agreement. We'll have those conversations that they're not working with another agent, etc. Then I'll go meet with them. I treat that like an initial listing consultation. I'm there, I'm going to talk to them. We're going to figure out where their knowledge of the market is, if they know what's going on, etc. And I'll see if they're willing at that point. We have, a little bit of conversation and kind of give them a little teaser of what knowledge we know. But then we look at if they're willing to go from that property to an actual buyer consult. It shows that they've got a little bit more motivation, that they're not, whatever. In that first conversation, I'm going to hear if they're a little bit coachable, if they're, willing to learn, that sort of thing. Then we go through a full buyer consult and I talk them through exactly what our process is. It is treated very much like a listing appointment. I take control of that and we go through what their expectations of the expectations of them are, what the expectations of the market are, and what they can expect from me and my team.
That's
So take
fantastic.
a look at that.
I want to retouch on that a minute, because this is one of the things that I don't want to gloss over how important this is. One of the things that I am struggling with today is getting people to embrace that buyer consultation a little bit. And here's some of the pushback I get. And for anybody watching this, I want you to take a look at somebody at a high level in one of the hardest markets that's getting these deals put together, is using that buyer consultation in order to do it. Not just in one level. What I'm hearing from you, Nicky, is the first meeting is almost a qualification meeting, almost a mini consultation, where we're either meeting them at the house or we're meeting them. Typically with my agents, I'll teach, if we can't meet at the house right away, we're going to meet at the Starbucks. We're going to meet somewhere locally right around the home they want to see, begin to have those conversations and qualify through. And then I think this is so important. And then to set that formal buyer consultation and to treat it just like a listing appointment. So when you're at that buyer consultation, tell me a little bit more about what that typically looks like for you. You've met them, you understand that there is something, they are valid as far as a motivation, ability, a timeline. We're moving into that consultation. And then Nicky, what does that look like at that point for you?
So we make sure that they're pre-approved. If they're not pre-approved at that point, everything kind of, the brakes go on until we do that. Then I connect them with one of my mortgage brokers so that I know that I'm in the loop all the way through what's going on with financing. Then we see how quickly they do that. So if they've met at a property, now they've met with me either over Zoom or in person for buyer consult. We've gone through this, then they've gone through and got their documents and got all that pre-approval stuff done. They've shown me 3 times that they're motivated. And we kind of watch how fast they're going to do that. And they're going to self-select. Some of them take months to get their pre-approval. And clearly they weren't listening at how fast our market prices are going up, because months in this market is costing them $200,000.
Right.
So we do that. When they're pre-approved, then we set them up on a search. I don't automatically search the internet every single day for my clients. I need them to raise their hand and make comments and let us know where they're at. So that's the 4th time they're raising their hand to say, I'm motivated. This is what I want to see. These are where we're at. Absolutely. Because we've studied the market, and that's our jobs to know what things are selling for and what the overages are, etc. We are studying that market and putting them in a search and have explained that expectation with them that, if your budget is $600,000, we're looking at things priced at $399 to $499, right? We're not looking at things at $550 because they're not staying inside your market in your price point.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is that you are setting the expectations with these buyers, that when we need to compete, It's not a matter of will we overpay, but it's a matter of how much above that list price are we ready to go and how competitive are we going to be on this specific property. It sounds like we're really laying the bedrock and the foundation of, hey, Mr. Buyer, we're going to have to come in full swings on this offer to get it together. Is that right?
Yeah, and we have that conversation, and people are, I love the fact you use the word overbidding or overpaying. Well, is it really overpaying if we're going to pay an extra $15,000 today than what you thought it was worth, and yet in 3 months it would be $50,000.
Right.
So
What a great point.
maybe we're going to spend a little bit now to get ahead of that market and beat those other buyers, but in 3 months from now, when you've got it, before you even close on the property, it's gone up in value by 50, 60,000. Did you overpay?
Wow.
Probably not.
What a great concept. This is something that we lean into also. And the point is if you are not in the market at this stage, especially rapid appreciation like yours, obviously we have a fantastic appreciation rate compared to our average in our market. But with you guys, it really is just screaming up so quickly. So one of the things that we do, and you really touched on it, when we want to create urgency, is we do talk a lot about that appreciation and the opportunity cost, right? And that's what we're leaning into, the opportunity cost here of waiting. So I think that is a fantastic point. So that actually leads me in, Nicky, to my other question I wanted to touch base with you on. When we are at that point, when it comes to the offer consultation, we've gone through and they've heard you, they understand, we set those expectations, but you walked in, and I want to talk on those two ways with you, because you're a little bit different than a lot of agents, is you do so well with these residential buyers who are buying for themselves, but you also kill it with investors. And I know those are really two different games. So I want you to just talk to me for a minute. When it comes time for that offer consultation, how do you approach it with the move up buyer? Let's say they sold their home, they're ready to get into their dream home and live there, and it's a move that has that strong motivation. And also, how do you approach that same consultation with that investor who's by the numbers and he really wants to protect his profit and try to get the best deal he can? And I know those are two different mindsets, and I love the fact that you win with both. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So really it's knowing your market. I have to know the numbers. I'm looking for the patterns of the market. So whether it's residential or it's investment, and when I do investment, it's multifamilies across all of the province. So it doesn't matter to me. Investors don't care where they're buying. The numbers have to work. So there's, we take a look at all of the whole province and say, okay, well, these are the numbers statistically, and we run spreadsheets on what's being sold and what the cap rates are and the ROI and what they can expect, where the list price is and what that cap rate, if you will, is running up to give them that price point and saying, listen, this is where you're at. But we also have to look at what is the forced appreciation we can put into that project. Are you running your own contractors? Are you doing this? Or is it completely hands off? Do you need turnkey? So there's so many more different variables with that investor side that we look at, that we really have to know our numbers. We have to know what the costs are to renovate and what the rental rates are and all of those sorts of things to kind of spreadsheet it all out and be like, here you go. If these numbers work for you, I'll tell you, yeah, you're going to do it or you're not. And sometimes it's just being first in and tying it up and figuring it out later.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. So really, it sounds like what you're saying is when it comes to the investors, really knowing your numbers, preparation is your value prop.
You have to know it.
Yes.
And when you flip over to residential, those regular people like you and I just buying for our families,
Those emotional buyers.
It is more emotional, but you really have to get to that point where I know I'm going to probably lose 2 or 3 offers with them. And I'm going to say, okay, this is what I recommend for price point. We'll go with whatever you're comfortable with. No problem. So if they come in 20,000 under what I recommend and it sells for what I recommend, when that happens 2 or 3 times, or I'm just under a hair and I say to them the next time, listen, look at my track record. I told you it was going to sell here. It sold there. told you I was going to sell here. It sold there. In order to win and be ahead, you need to be ahead of my price. So when you're willing to jump, the next thing that happens with them, and you see it every single time, is they go over what you're suggesting by 10 or 15,000 and go throw all in. So it's being able to show that track record and really know the patterns of what is happening in the market.
Absolutely. I love it. It's so true. Nicky, last but not least, I'm going to start to wrap us up here, but there's a question that I wanted to ask you specifically, right? And this is the reason why. As I see this, and this is my 20th year, going into my 21st year in the business, I can't help but notice again now that we're seeing more and more agents failing out of the business in the very beginning. And we're seeing more new agents coming into the business. I know you have spent a lot of time training new agents. I know that is a really good strength of yours too. Give me a couple, maybe 2, 3 things, the best advice for a brand new agent or an agent who's only been involved for maybe 6 months. They want to get started on the buy side. They want to get that forward momentum. Give me 2 or 3 things that are going to be the most important things for them to focus on as they build their pipeline and as they build their reputation as a strong buyer's agent.
So you just touched on that. One is reputation. You have to start that. I get a lot of deals because they know who I am, what I'm doing, that deals are going to close when I say they're going to close. And really building that reputation. And it doesn't start out, you can't do that from day one where everyone just knows your deals are going to close. You haven't had a deal there, but building that trust and that everything else, that you stand out differently. I have a bit of a sense of humor. I'm kind of known as the funny meme girl, the crazy TikTok girl. People feel they know me. So the agents on the other side know who I am, feel like they've done deals with me. And when I'm competing against someone that's out of our market, I'll win every time because they know me. They know who I am, and that, this deal is going to go really well. So building that reputation, having coffee dates with as many agents and getting, that open mind and building relationships with the other agents on the other side of your market. Like you're going to sit on the other side of the table with them. So building that rapport and reputation. And then the other one is really digging down and knowing your inventory. You need to know the product you sell. You need to know it inside and out. You need to understand when we're not having home inspections anymore. You need to be able to say to your buyer, this is a huge red flag. I'm no home inspector, but I don't want to see you in this and have a money pit, right? And be able to have the confidence to say yes or no, like not yes, okay, just this is fine, just sweep it under the rug kind of deal. But you need to know when they need to run, right? And watch that market, be a part of the office meetings where the conversation is knowing how many offers are on properties, etc., and knowing what the patterns are. You have to know your inventory, what you're selling.
Absolutely. What powerful information. Nickey Calford, you've been so generous with your time today. I can't thank you enough for coming out for this interview and sharing some of your insight and how you're competing on one of the toughest markets. If you're an agent out there and you're working with buyers and you got something out of this, or if you specifically know somebody who is looking to make the move to Ontario, Canada, you can find Nickey on Facebook. You can absolutely find her on TikTok. Her TikTok is great, filled with a ton of different small tips for agents, also filled with tips for buyers who are starting into the market. And I just love it. Cracks me up every time. So guys, thank you so much. Nickey, thank you so much for your time. Buyer Mastery has started. We're only 1 week in. There is still time for you guys to sign up, get more information on how to win with buyers in this market. I'm Coach Nick Bellmore. Thank you so much for your time today.